What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bring you incredible guests from all over the world, so sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest is an entrepreneur, as usual. He also used to consider himself the worst salesperson in the world, and now he's the founder of Mastery of B2B Sales. Please welcome my premier guest, Chaz Horn. Chaz, welcome to the show.
Deanna, great to be here. Thank you so much.
So
excited for a conversation.
Me too. So this is something that I used to, my former life, I was VP of business operations and key accounts. And then when my late husband passed, then I had to go into the corporate world, which I really hadn't been in ever. And so I got into like B2B sales, and the last role was SaaS B2B sales. And so it's very difficult to be in sales. You have to have that personality, which you know, and like it's a skill set to sell, especially in this day and age, I feel like. So I want to know your journey, why you used to consider yourself the worst salesperson in the world, and what prompted you to start Mastery of B2B Sales.
I consider myself the worst salesperson because I was.
Okay.
So, and by the way, I am so sorry to hear about your husband. I didn't realize that till you just said that. So sorry for your loss. For your question, when I first got into B2B sales, it was a long time ago, decades ago.
You don't look that old for it to be decades. You look very young.
I spend a lot of time trying to take care of myself. The older I get, the more time I spend on myself.
Yeah.
But going back decades, out of 119 salespeople, I was 119. I had zero, not a sales. It was 100% commission. It was a cold call. And then after the cold call, I would show up in person. And if I didn't walk out of there with a check, I wasn't going to get paid. So without having any sales, I was the worst. But one night, my boss became my mentor when he invited me over for dinner, Ken Upton. And after dinner, he took me into his den. It's kind of like a setting in Hollywood where you have the teacher, the sifu, and the student with a fire in the fireplace. And he turned to me. He said, "Chaz, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired?"
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I know you're not making any sales. You're not making any money. Do you want to start making some money? I said, yes. He said, you can be. Those three words changed my life because no one had really talked to me and shown or believed that I had potential.
Sure.
So he said, you can be, followed by the top salesperson in the company. But there's always that big but, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But you got to follow the system. You got to follow the process because it's proven.
Okay.
So I followed the system. I followed the process. 45 days later, with someone from the outside believing in me, a mentor, very important.
Yeah.
45 days later, I went from 119. I wasn't number one, but I was number 3.
Wow. That's huge.
It was huge.
That had to feel good.
It did. It was one of those things. Have you ever been in a situation where you're like, you believe you can do something, then when you start to do something, it's like, I don't think I can do this. I just interviewed someone about growth mindset earlier, and that mentor stepping in and believing in me and showing me the system and process gave me the guidance and direction and the encouragement and the challenge I needed.
That's beautiful. I love that. Can we ask for everybody that's listening, probably wants to know, what did you sell at that point? What were you selling?
It was advertising.
Okay.
It was a little thing that went into your grocery bag at the grocery store.
Oh, wow.
I sold these little ads on there. I don't know if they don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But back then it was popular.
Very cool. Yeah. So fast forward. So in 2016, you took a leap of faith and you founded Mastery of B2B Sales. So talk to us about where that came from and why you took a leap of faith to become an entrepreneur.
Right. I almost wanted to have a business, and about 5 years after my first sales job that I was just talking to you about, I bought into a franchise, and that was back in the 90s.
Okay.
Getting exhausted, and I thought, man, if they don't get this done, the fire marshal will shut them down.
Yeah.
About a year into that, I was on the roof, 4 stories up, 30 degrees, 3 in the morning, covered in grease and chemicals. It takes your skin off the hands. I'm like, I almost fell off the roof.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do this anymore. So, lesson for everyone out there: starting a business, great.
Yeah.
But it's really important to start a business that you're passionate about and believe in it. So fast forward a couple decades, and I had been a sales manager. And during that time, it was kind of like I became the Ken Upton in the salespeople's lives, and I was able to help them see and realize their potential. That became my why.
Yeah.
The past pain where I never thought I had potential, to now I'm in a place of leadership, and I enjoyed it. But I didn't like managing people, and I didn't like working for other people. So I finally stepped out of my comfort zone, paid someone $10K to help me create my offer and get my business off the ground. And there wasn't anything going to stop me because I was not going back.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. And so your passion is in B2B sales.
It is. If you go below that,
Yeah.
yes, because of my experience and my knowledge, that's what my business is. But if you go below that, it's about my passion is to help people see and realize their potential.
Okay.
Because of my sales experience, that's one of the way, in my marketing too, which I learned a skill set along the way. I'm able to help businesses see and realize their potential.
Yeah.
So that's why I started it, and that's what I do. And there's nothing better professionally that gives me joy than seeing my clients get that aha moment, and then all of a sudden execute, and then get a result, and then have them send me a text or give me a video that I didn't even expect on social media saying, "Hey, Chaz, help me do blank."
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
That is very awesome. So do you work with the salesperson, or the business is trying to sell? Right. The business is trying to sell to other businesses. So you're helping them with their business to business sales.
Yeah. It's got, like any business,
Yeah.
I'm going on, it'll be 7 years December. As you start to grow, you start to get additional offers, and sometimes it can get a little bit too complex, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, I need to simplify this. So right now, when I first started, it was B2B consultants. They had an expertise. They could meet or exceed expectations.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a way to identify, attract people to them. That's marketing.
Yeah. Right.
Into prospect's mind. And then sales, convert into meetings, and then convert into clients. So I started out really small. When I may say small, I'm talking about the businesses I worked with, typically 1 to 10.
Okay.
Now, you said about salespeople and whatnot. So I still have this, and I have I hate the word program. I need to get a better word for that. But I have a 12-week training that I take them through.
Yeah.
It's one-on-one, there's mixed, and there's online, or there's group training, and there's also access to my online training platform. But it's transitioned so that companies that are more established, I'm helping with some of their internal processes.
Okay.
One company I just took on as a client 4 months ago, they implemented a scorecard to build the relationship with current clients for upsells and cross-sells, and they had an increase in sales by $120,000 in May.
Wow. Good for them.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Exciting. We all celebrated.
Yeah. That's got to feel good for you that you made such an impact.
Mm-hmm.
So I have, like, things are so different these days versus they were, like, you said decades ago, right? And so how does that translate into helping your clients master the B2B sales with all these different dynamics that we have, like social media, online? I mean, there's just the landscape has changed drastically. So I want to know, like, because I remember getting the flyer in the bag from the grocery store. We don't see that anymore because it's all online. It's all virtual media, all that stuff.
Right. Well, I no longer use stone and tablets to put my messages together.
Well, we know you're not that old. I mean, you look like you're 30. So okay.
So there's been a lot of transitions. I think the biggest thing in today, if you go back, because we had the internet and then
Yeah.
emails were really big, and it's still around and very important to have opt-in emails. But I think the biggest thing today, as opposed to 90s, 2000, 2010, is companies are starting to realize that their marketing and their sales have to be in alignment. They have to work together and be congruent. And because a lot of times marketing department and sales departments, they're at odds.
Oh, yeah.
They're fighting each other. It's the
Yeah.
most ridiculous thing. Now they're starting to meet. It's still B2B. Businesses are still behind on this.
Right.
But the biggest change is when me, as a salesperson, when I realize, hey, I can market and people come to me as opposed to me cold calling and reaching them.
Yeah.
So with technology, with social media, with LinkedIn, typically is where I spend a lot of time, that and YouTube, it attracts people to you. So it changes the dynamic of the conversation, because Dale Carnegie was know, like, trust. Typically, that was the sales conversation. You had to build rapport, do all these different things.
Yeah.
With social media and with marketing, they have a sense of knowing you, liking you, trusting you. And most important today, in 2023 and beyond, is they have a sense of seeing you as the authority. So that's the big difference for salespeople today, when they have a marketing strategy that's proven, that works in alignment with the sales process.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest and best change that's happened in the last 5-10 years.
Wow. Yeah. I would agree with that. I like that. So do you have like a specific example of a success story? I mean, you just said you did share that someone grew their sales over 100,000, but I want to break that down a little bit more and talk about
Sure.
like when they hired you as, I mean, do you consider yourself a consultant or not a coach, or what do you consider it?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out myself, because it's like, it's everyone's a coach,
Yeah. Everybody has a coach.
22-year-old life coaches popping up each and every day, right? And nothing. Marie Forleo was a 22-year-old life coach, and look at her today. Okay,
Yeah.
so not taking away from them. So there's a lot of coaches out there, and I think that the title has kind of been watered down.
Yeah.
So I do coach my clients, and yes, I do consult with them, and
What about strategist?
strategize with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the one thing. Hey, we said it at the same time. Great minds think alike.
That's right.
So yeah, maybe I'll be a strategist.
Yeah.
Because that's what I've gone back and forth. But to your question, Deanna, with what I did with this company, they're doing, I think, 2.5 million approximately, and they delivered, they exceeded expectations, but and this is what a lot of companies do, they're not getting the lifetime value with their clients that they could,
Okay.
because they're missing out on the way to communicate, to engage. So what I created with them was what I call the blue pass.
Okay.
They call it a set to pass, because that's kind of like their name.
Right.
And it's breaking down when they start. Okay, score yourself on boom, 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 boom.
Okay.
And then a month later, 60 days and 90 days later, and then every quarter after that, they're reviewing. Here's where you are when we started.
Right.
Here's where now, how would you score yourself now?
Sure.
Is there anything that we didn't do that you hoped I would have? Would you score us on a scale of 1 to 5?
Right.
And so they're telling you, oh, a 4.5. Why not a 5? So there's a list of questions they go down. In the psychology, it's not, hey, could you give me a recommendation? They're telling you because you're reviewing what you've done for them and the results they're getting. So they're in a place where they're ready and ripe if there's an opportunity to help them additionally.
Sure.
It's all about the intention to serve, to take them into an upsell or a cross-sell because they have a need and they're communicating, hey, we have a lot of confidence in you.
Right.
Then you can simply take it to a next step. So with that scorecard, which is part of a set to pass, they were able to get the conversations with decision makers they didn't talk to previously.
Okay.
And they had an open discussion, and they're like, man, you guys are doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize how far they come unless you had that conversation.
Sure.
And so it's like, wow, we've come a lot further than we thought. And that's where it led to their, in May, $120,000 increase in sales based on the sales they get. And most of those came from upsells and cross sells.
Oh, that's
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it does make sense. So these are all like inside sales people do they have the whole team go through your program, or do you work with just the leader themselves?
It depends upon the size company.
Okay.
If I'm working with a B2B consultant, they may have a few people on their team, but they're administrative or a virtual assistant or something like that. So I'm teaching them. Okay, if I take out the established businesses and I talk to someone who's new or just a solopreneur,
Sure.
typically I'm working for the fundamental. So they're building the founding documents with their sales process and their marketing strategy. That's where I start to get clarity.
Yeah. Right.
And then with the companies that are larger, I may work with their sales team. For instance, I'm meeting with someone tomorrow, a client, and they have 2 salespeople and they just hired 2 other salespeople. And they wanted me to be involved in the process because they weren't doing assessments previously. And I'm meeting with them and we're working on the fundamental of sales. And then we're talking about how to incorporate marketing so they're not just banging on the phone, because that's what they're doing right now, is making cold call after cold call.
Those are always fun.
Yeah. Anyone that tells me I love making cold calls,
No.
either you're different or you're a little deranged.
Yeah, I
run cold calls, but I never enjoyed it. I did it because I wanted to get to a certain end.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's better ways to do it than a purely cold call.
I would agree. Yeah, no, I was never a fan of doing cold calls, but sometimes that's where you have to start. At what point would a company that may be struggling with their sales would reach out to you and say, "Hey, I need to work with Chaz. I've heard of Mastery of B2B Sales on Label Free. We're like a little stuck in our sales process," and they don't know at what point would they reach out to you?
Yeah, if you don't have a predictable way, I call it Sunday. So this is when Sunday turns into Monday in your mind.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking about the past week. And typically with the people I work with, the past week, they didn't have the clients coming in that they thought they would have. They don't have a predictable way to fill their calendar. Getting referrals is great, but it's not predictable, and hope is not a strategy. So Sunday evening, the weekend's ending, they're relaxing, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going into the week. Where's my next client going to come from? If they don't have a predictable way to identify and attract people to them, or if they're scheduling the meetings and not converting those into clients,
right?
It's attracting that. I hate the word lead because everyone defines it differently. Let's just say qualified prospect. Decision maker, target market, see you as an authority, told you about a problem I have. That's a qualified prospect. And then converting that into clients. So attracting new prospects into your funnel and then converting those into clients. If you're not predictably doing that, that's when someone would reach out to me and I would have a brief conversation and I'd take them through an analysis, and I use the acronym TABS, TTABS. We could talk about that further, but I don't want to get too far down a rabbit trail. But does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. No, thank you for that. Thank you for that clarity. What do you think of all these different tools that people can use that they consider like sales funnels for that they can add to their website? And I don't know a lot about it, but I've seen like opportunities where you can add these different widgets to your website, which was kind of like a sales funnel. What do you think about that?
Are you talking about AI, chat GPT type of things? Or
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I do a live discussion audio chat on LinkedIn every Thursday, and we talk about AI, chat GPT, and sales and how to incorporate those. And one of the people that joined me, he's creating what's called an autonomous agent. If you think about Gyrus from Iron Man, I forget what the acronym stands for. Just an extraordinary something. Iron Man would go out, save the world, and this autonomous agent, that's what they're called nowadays, he would create a new Iron Man suit. And they would do this. So these autonomous agents, this guy will set up, it actually learns. So it's not your chat widget that can't really communicate very well. I've been in a lot of communications with my cable company with their chat widget, and it's just live person,
Yeah.
live person.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I understand. Yeah, been there.
And will, yeah, it's very frustrating. So the autonomous agents that you deploy actually learn and you give it information. It's kind of like ChatGPT, but it's in your website that people can, I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
But it can actually take on sales and schedule meetings and all sorts of different things. So anything with AI, if you're not incorporating it, AI is not going to replace you and your job, but it's the people who use AI will be head and shoulders above you and your business.
Yeah.
So there's lots of anything you can use to get people's information. If it's on your website and it qualifies them, I think go for it.
Yeah,
most definitely.
No, I think that embracing AI as part of your business moving forward is a very savvy move. It's not going anywhere. And if you don't embrace it, you're probably not going to be very successful long term, especially as we step into this new era of technology. So that's my opinion. One more question before we start wrapping things up. Now, if someone's like an outside sales, let's say they work for like Career Builder or some other like company and they're doing B2B sales and or they're out in the field doing something, would your program be suitable for them?
Yes, I have maybe about 15% of the people I work with actually invest in themselves to improve their skill sets. I actually created, with the help of ChatGPT, a sales skill test that's multiple choice that I give to people either within the organization, or if I had a salesperson who wanted to take the test, they'd be happy to take it, and they can see, okay, here's your level of sales. This is where you need improvement.
Okay, that's cool. I love that. And so anybody that's listening that is maybe an investor or is in outside sales that are interested in investing in themselves and wanting to learn a little bit more how you can strengthen your sales skills, I highly suggest to reach out to Chaz and or at least take the test. Chaz, where can people find you, connect with you, and get access to that test?
Yeah, so best way, first of all, if you just email me, chazhorn@chazhorn.com, that's the first last name at first last name.
Okay.
Easy. No dots, underscores, anything like that. LinkedIn is where I spend the most time. So just go to Chaz Horn and send me a message. If you view my profile and if you're in my target market, my VA will set up and connect with you. The other thing is, if people want access to I do 2 live events every week. If they just go to b2bclientsnow.com, the number 2, bclientsnow.com, they can get access, and then I do those events each and every week, and I do a Q&A session, and I don't hold back. If you show up and you have a question, I'll answer it. I'll give you the information that's going to help you right then and there.
I love it. You guys, I'm going to put those links in the show notes. I'm going to give you his email, chazhorn@chazhorn.com, or his LinkedIn. Go ahead, reach out, connect with them on LinkedIn. It can't hurt. More connections. It's all about networking in this world, especially if you're in sales. Chaz, this is a part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
This is 2 things, if that's okay.
Of course.
All right. First and foremost, you are where you are because of the expectations of the peer group you surround yourself with. So everyone think about that, because if you surround yourself with people, I just, as I was saying, alluded to earlier, Deanna, I interviewed an Ironman athlete. She's a mom of 5. She's a TEDx speaker. And just having that conversation took me to a level, because she has a whole different perspective. So if you want to get to the next level, invest in other people at the next level, surround yourself with people who are already at the place you want to go. And second, one of my favorite topics is joy, because I didn't have joy most of my life. I was miserable because I focused on all the things I didn't have and the things I had to do. So this is what I learned in the process when I was really sick in bed in 2020. Joy doesn't come from getting what you want. It appears when you appreciate all that you have and get to do. I started, hey, I can see, I can hear. And it was that gratitude went from, yay, gratitude. It's like, yeah, okay, gratitude. But it went from head knowledge to heart knowledge when I started to really appreciate that, hey, I have my 5 senses. I may not be able to get out of bed, but at least I can see, hear, all those different things. So those are 2 things that if you apply that in your life, You'll get to the next level and you'll have a lot more joy in your life if you focus on what you get to do and all that you have, as opposed to what you don't have and what you have to do.
Oh, love that. Boom. With that note, Chaz, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with us your journey through sales and becoming the master of B2B sales, no longer the world's worst salesperson. So we appreciate you, and I know you're going to bring a lot of value to whoever listens to this.
Thank you, Deanna. I appreciate it so much.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.